What I'm about to share with you isn't just a story, it's a divine revelation of how God Himself deals with the proud, the manipulative, and the unrepentant. The ways He works are miraculous and shocking, both terrifying and beautiful, leaving no one untouched. You've seen it, perhaps even lived it, those who exalt themselves, who crush others under the weight of their ego, who twist truth into lies to serve their purposes. But rest assured, no one stands too high or hides too deep to escape the justice of God. Before we begin, don't forget to share this message and subscribe. You never know whose life this truth might transform. Now, let's dive into the mysterious, awe-inspiring ways that God breaks the pride of a narcissist. The first thing God does is expose the truth. He doesn't do this in the way humans might, with accusations or arguments. No, God works in silence, through events and circumstances. A narcissist thrives in darkness, hiding their true nature behind charm and manipulation. But God is light, and when He shines that light, even the best-kept secrets are brought into the open. It might be through an accidental slip of words, an unforeseen consequence, or a moment of undeniable truth. Suddenly, the cracks in their facade begin to show, and the truth they've been running from starts to catch up with them. But God doesn't stop there. After the mask begins to fall, He does something even more profound. He confronts them with their own reflection. This isn't a confrontation from others, this is divine, personal, and deeply unsettling. In quiet moments when the noise of the world fades, the narcissist is left alone with their thoughts. And in that stillness, God whispers, "Look at who you've become. It's a mirror they can't escape." Their actions, their choices, the hurt they've caused, it's all laid bare before them. This moment is not for humiliation, it's for conviction. As they wrestle with this truth, God begins to dismantle the things they've built their pride upon. The narcissist's power, influence, and control, their false sense of security, are slowly taken away. Not out of cruelty, but out of mercy. God knows that as long as they rely on these things, they'll never turn to Him. And so He allows their empire to crumble. Relationships are strained, their manipulations backfire, and the control they once had starts to slip through their fingers. To them, it feels like the world is falling apart. But in reality, God is tearing down the idols they've built, brick by brick, to make room for something greater. Then comes the turning point. God doesn't leave them alone in their downfall. He sends people, truth-tellers, into their lives. These are the ones who speak honestly, who refuse to be intimidated, who hold up a mirror and say, "This is not who you were made to be." These voices are not always welcome. They may be met with anger or denial. But they are God's instruments, planting seeds of change. God offers them a choice. This is the moment of grace, the crossroads where redemption or ruin lies ahead. Will they humble themselves, admit their need for God, and let Him transform their heart? Or will they cling to their pride, choosing destruction over surrender? This decision is theirs, but God's hand remains extended, offering mercy until the very last moment. And what about you, the one dealing with the pain caused by a narcissist? God sees you too. His justice is not just for them, it's for you as well. Your prayers, your tears, your struggles are not in vain. God calls you to trust Him, to let Him fight this battle. He reminds you to set boundaries, to protect your heart, but also to pray for their redemption. It's not easy, but it's the way of faith. The story of God and the narcissist is one of both justice and mercy, a reminder that no one is beyond his reach. His ways are higher, his timing perfect, his love relentless. So, if you're in the midst of this struggle, take heart. God is at work, and his work is miraculous. There is a moment when the unbearable weight of truth becomes too great for even the most carefully crafted lie to carry. The narcissist, master of deception, may live for years behind a mask so convincing that even they begin to believe it. But God is never fooled. He sees not only what lies behind the mask, but also the heart that created it. And when the time comes, he acts not out of malice, but out of love and justice so profound that it shakes the very foundation of the narcissist world. The exposure doesn't come with loud thunderclaps or dramatic announcements. No, God's way is subtler, more piercing. Like the first rays of dawn creeping into a pitch-black room, his light enters where it is least expected. A small crack in the narcissist's facade, a slip of the tongue, an accidental revelation, a contradiction too glaring to ignore becomes the catalyst for a chain reaction. It is as though the universe itself begins to conspire against their deception. Conversations are overheard, emails discovered, motives questioned. What was once hidden in the shadows now stands trembling in the light. And yet, this exposure is not merely for others to see, it is for the narcissists themselves. Imagine the terror of realizing that the lies you've told, the image you've curated, are unraveling strand by strand. This is not just the loss of reputation, it is the loss of control, the one thing the narcissist treasures above all. For control is their fortress, their safety net, their weapon against vulnerability. To lose it is to face the one thing they fear most, truth. But why does God expose them? It is not for humiliation or vindication. It is for redemption. Scripture tells us that nothing hidden will remain so forever, that what is whispered in secret will one day be shouted from the rooftops. This is not a threat, it is a promise of hope. God uncovers what is concealed not to destroy, but to heal. For as long as the narcissist lives in darkness, they cannot truly see themselves, let alone see God. Exposure is the first step toward transformation, a painful but necessary act of grace. Yet this exposure is also a test for them and for us. When the truth comes to light, the narcissist stands at a crossroads. Will they acknowledge what has been revealed, confess their wrongs, and seek the forgiveness only God can give? Or will they double down, spinning new lies to cover the old, retreating further into the prison of their pride? And what of us, the ones who bear witness to this divine unveiling? Will we rejoice in their downfall, or will we see it for what it truly is, a desperate act of love from a God who will not abandon even the most hardened heart? God's light is relentless. It cannot be ignored, bargained with, or extinguished. And when it shines, it reveals not only the ugliness of sin, but also the beauty of a soul still worth saving. This is the power of exposure, not an end, but a beginning. A chance for grace to do what it does best, redeem. There comes a time when the noise of the world fades, and the narcissist is left alone not by accident, but by divine design. In that stillness, something extraordinary and terrifying happens. God confronts them with themselves. This is not a confrontation of wrath or chaos, but of clarity, and it is deeply personal. It is in these moments, when the applause dies down and their carefully cultivated persona no longer serves them, that the narcissist begins to see what they have been running from: the truth. Imagine standing before a mirror, unable to look away, as it reflects not just your appearance but the essence of your soul. Every decision, every lie, every manipulation stands there, unvarnished. This is what God does. He holds up a mirror that cannot be shattered, no matter how desperately the narcissist might want to turn away. It is as though he whispers, "Look at who you are. Look at what you've done. Do you recognize yourself?" This moment is not for the faint of heart. For someone who has built their entire identity on control and self-aggrandizement, to be confronted with the raw truth of their brokenness is almost unbearable. They see the faces of those they've hurt, the trust they've betrayed, the lives they've manipulated to feed their insatiable pride. They see the emptiness behind the mask, the hollowness that no amount of praise, power, or possessions could ever fill. God's confrontation is not just a reflection of actions, it is a revelation of consequences. He allows them to feel the weight of the pain they've caused, the damage they've inflicted not only on others but on themselves. The walls they've built to keep others out now feel like a prison. The pride that once seemed like strength now feels like chains. But here is the profound beauty in this confrontation. It is not an act of condemnation, but of mercy. For as long as the narcissist can avoid facing themselves, they can avoid change. They can live in denial, blaming others, justifying their actions, and perpetuating the cycle of harm. But in this divine moment of stillness, there is no one else to blame, no one else to manipulate. It is just them and God, and the truth that cannot be denied. This confrontation is inescapable, but it is also an invitation. God does not show them their reflection to destroy them, He does it to redeem them. He is saying, "See who you are without me, and understand that it doesn't have to be this way." It is a call to repentance, a chance to let go of the pride that has enslaved them, and step into the freedom of humility and grace. But the choice is theirs. Will they accept what they see and seek God's forgiveness, or will they turn away, retreating further into the darkness? The moment is critical, for the mirror does not lie, and the time for change is now. This is the confrontation every soul must face to see ourselves as we truly are, and to decide who we will become in the light of God's truth. When God dismantles the false power of a narcissist, it is nothing short of a divine intervention, a tearing down of their illusions, not out of cruelty, but out of love that refuses to let them remain enslaved to their own pride. A narcissist's entire identity is built on the illusion of control, the belief that they are the masters of their destiny, capable of bending others and situations to their will. But God, in His infinite wisdom, knows that such power is a mirage, and He will not allow them to cling to it forever. It often begins subtly. The structures the narcissist has carefully built, their influence over others, their financial stability, their sense of superiority start to wobble. Relationships that once seemed secure begin to falter. Colleagues, friends, or family members who were once under their thumb start to resist. Their manipulations, once so effective, begin to backfire. What was once a fortress of control begins to crumble, brick by brick. This dismantling is not random, it is precise. God removes exactly what the narcissist relies on most, targeting the very things that fuel their pride. If their power lies in their ability to dominate others emotionally, God raises up people who refuse to be manipulated. If their security comes from wealth or status, He allows financial difficulties or loss of prestige to bring them low. If they have built their identity on outward appearances, God permits circumstances that reveal their inner brokenness for all to see. At first, the narcissist fights back. They scramble to rebuild, to regain what they believe is rightfully theirs. But no matter how hard they try, they find that their efforts come to nothing. Their plans unravel, their schemes fail, and the control they once wielded slips through their fingers like sand. It is in these moments of desperation that God's purpose becomes clear, to strip away the false securities they have clung to, leaving them with no choice but to confront their own frailty. This dismantling is not punishment, it is an act of mercy. God knows that as long as the narcissist believes in their own strength, they will never seek His. They will continue to live in a prison of pride, blind to their need for redemption. By removing their false power, God creates space for something far greater: humility. And in humility lies the potential for transformation. But the process is painful, and the narcissist is left at a crossroads. Will they recognize their brokenness and turn to God for help, or will they harden their hearts further, blaming others, refusing to surrender? The choice is theirs, but the opportunity for grace is undeniable. In dismantling their false power, God is not breaking them, He is breaking the chains that bind them. He is calling them to a deeper truth, a life not built on control and pride, but on dependence on Him. This is the ultimate paradox of His love, that by losing everything, they might gain everything that truly matters. God, in His relentless pursuit of every soul, uses people as His instruments of truth. For the narcissist, whose world is built on deception and control, these truth-tellers are both a challenge and a gift. They are not chosen at random, they are divinely appointed, placed with precision in the narcissist's path to reveal the truths they have long avoided. These truth-tellers are often unexpected. They could be a friend who finally finds the courage to speak up, a family member who refuses to stay silent, or even a stranger whose words cut to the core. What sets them apart is not their boldness alone, but their purpose. They are not there to attack or humiliate, but to shine a light into the narcissist's darkness. Their words, though uncomfortable and unwelcome, are born of love and a desire to see transformation. Imagine the tension when these voices emerge. The narcissist, accustomed to controlling narratives and silencing dissent, is suddenly faced with someone who won't back down. The truth-teller's words are sharp, but not cruel, honest, but not hateful. They expose manipulation for what it is, confront the harm that has been done, and point to a better way. For the narcissist, this is an unbearable challenge. They may lash out, deny, or attempt to discredit the messenger. But the truth once spoken cannot be unheard. And yet truth-tellers do more than confront, they offer a glimpse of hope. In their honesty lies the promise of change. They don't simply say, "This is who you are," they say, "This is who you could be." Their words are like seeds planted in hard soil. They may not take root immediately, but God waters them through circumstances, reflection, and His relentless grace. For the narcissist, these encounters are pivotal. Each truth-teller is a divine appointment, a moment of choice. Will they listen and begin to question their ways, or will they reject the truth and continue down the path of pride? God does not force them to change, but He makes it impossible to ignore the opportunity. For those called to be truth-tellers, the role is not easy. It requires courage, patience, and an unshakable reliance on God. Speaking truth to a narcissist can feel like walking into a storm, but God equips his messengers with strength and wisdom. They must remember that the outcome is not in their hands, it is in God's. Their task is to plant the seed and trust him to do the rest. Through these truth-tellers, God demonstrates his love and justice. He does not leave the narcissist to their own devices. He sends voices of reason, reflection, and redemption. Their words, though uncomfortable, are a lifeline, a chance to break free from the chains of pride and step into the light of God's truth. For some, it will be the start of a journey toward humility and grace. For others, it may simply be another voice they choose to ignore. But no one can say that God did not try. There comes a moment in every life, a moment of reckoning, when the path ahead splits into two very different roads. For the narcissist, this moment is both a gift and a terrifying challenge. They have been given every opportunity, every chance to see the truth, to be confronted with their pride, to feel the consequences of their actions. But now, at this crucial crossroads, the decision is no longer in the hands of circumstance or others. It is solely theirs. The question they must answer is simple, but it is life-altering. Will they choose redemption, or will they cling to their pride, knowing the ruin that follows? In the face of their brokenness, God extends a hand of mercy. His grace is not conditional, not earned through good deeds or self-improvement, but freely given to those who humble themselves and admit their need. For the narcissist, this grace is both foreign and uncomfortable. They have lived their entire lives convinced of their superiority, believing that they are beyond reproach. To humble themselves, to admit fault, to acknowledge their need for God, these are acts they have spent a lifetime avoiding. Yet God's mercy is relentless. He offers forgiveness not because of their worthiness, but because of his love for them, even in their deepest flaws. However, the choice is not a simple one. The narcissist stands before the weight of their pride, an anchor that has kept them grounded in the illusions of self-sufficiency and control. The very qualities that have made them feel invincible are the chains that hold them captive. To embrace God's grace means to let go of these chains. It means acknowledging that they are not the masters of their fate, that their power and influence are not as permanent as they once believed. It means stepping into a humility that will break their self-sufficiency and force them to rely on something far greater than themselves. For some, this moment is too much to bear. The weight of pride is heavy, and the allure of control is far too great. They reject the mercy offered to them, choosing instead to harden their hearts and continue down the path they have always known. In doing so, they choose ruin, not as a punishment from God, but as a natural consequence of their own choices. For pride always leads to destruction. No person, no empire, no illusion of control can stand against the relentless truth of God's justice. Yet for those who do choose redemption, for those who are willing to lay down their pride and embrace God's transformative grace, the results are nothing short of miraculous. Humility leads to healing, surrender leads to freedom, and grace leads to the restoration of a soul that was once lost in the darkness of pride. The transformation is not instantaneous, but it is powerful. Where once there was pride and control, there is now peace and dependence on God. Where once there was manipulation and deceit, there is now truth and love. The narcissist, if they choose redemption, is born again not in their own image, but in the image of the one who created them. God's hand of mercy remains extended, no matter how far they have wandered. His offer is not temporary, but eternal. Yet the decision is theirs. Will they choose the freedom that comes with humility and surrender, or will they remain imprisoned by their own pride? The crossroads are before them, and the choice is profound. What they decide will echo throughout their lives and determine the future of their soul.